Just a heads up, there's some more Dauntless loot on Twitch, so if you have Amazon Prime and a Twitch account, link the two, get Twitch Prime, and go claim your loot. Also keep in mind you have a free sub, use that for your favorite streamer, or pick a budget streamer like myself if you ain't got nothing else, alright? Just saying. Amen, brother. What's up, y'all? My name is Doe, and today I'm showcasing a hammer build I've been using for a long time now, and I'm pretty sure I got that build from Frugal, so check them out if you haven't already. Anyway, the build itself is comprised of, well, the main thing in the build is going to be the Wristalker hammer, and to talk about what other hammers could be really good right now, or are really good right now, I'll go ahead and say that the Valmir and Hellion hammer are good in certain situations. So if you're fighting a Frost Behemoth, the Hellion hammer is a really good hammer to pick, just because you get extra damage since fire is strong against frost. And in the same sense, the Valmir hammer is very strong on Riftstalker and Shroud because they are Umbral Behemoths. Valmir is Radiant, it's a Radiant weapon, so you get extra damage based on that sort of situation. Now, to talk about the current build, we'll have the Riftstalker hammer, and that is, I'm going to go ahead and say, the best in slot hammer, and I'm thinking that because of the unique equip. Not the stat on the weapon, which would be Wild Frenzy, but the unique equip, which is dealing damage has a chance based on damage dealt to generate a Shadow Orb that increases damage dealt by 2.5% for 5 seconds. If 5 or more orbs are present, the bonus doubles. And the axe has like a weird interaction with this, but the hammer, which is what this video is about, doesn't really have that same interaction. And instead, you can pretty much just generate a good orb count by doing your hits, and then once you go into your Aether Slam, which is what you want to do as much as possible, you'll have a high orb count to do a ton of damage. So you can generate, so as you're building up to do a combo for the Aether Slam at the finisher, your hits to build up to that Aether Slam are generating orbs, and those orbs give you extra damage. And by the way, the max damage you can get right now is going to be 40% because it's actually hard capped at 8 orbs. Before, it wasn't hard capped, but it was a soft cap. But now it's like, I'm pretty sure you can't go above 8 orbs unless you bug it out. And that's a good thing because this weapon was super busted. When this weapon first came out, Riftstalker weapons were insane when they first came out, but now they're still really good, especially for the axe and the hammer. But anyway, the build itself will be comprised of the Riftstalker hammer with the Mighty Landbreaker, because that's pretty much a staple in all hammer builds because the buff is really, really good. And the extended clip, which is you get 2 extra shells. And now to go into the Landbreaker, this is a buff that gives you 20% extra damage if you are using a regular shell. If you have an Aether Charge shell, you get 35% extra damage, which is a really, really crazy buff, and it lasts 30 seconds in each case. Now, the gear in this build is going to be the Hellion Helmet, the Drask chest piece, the Rachel gloves, the Koshai feet, and the Drask lantern. And to quickly go over the cells, we're going to have the +6 Aetheric Attunement, Conduit, Overpower, Predator, Rage Hunter with a +3 Cunning and +3 Wild Frenzy. Now in this build, I don't really want to have Cunning because you only have 4% chance to critically strike. My other options would be to either go full +6 Wild Frenzy, which I don't think is a good option either, because you don't want to get hit, because you don't lose Predator. Getting hit, you lose Predator, it's just not the play. Now you could run Evasive Fury at +3, but it's like a weird, it's weird to have a attack speed increase and not have it last that long. So you're dealing with like finicky attack speed increases. That's not my cup of tea. And the same thing goes with Molten, which Molten might be a better option since you would have 20% attack speed no matter what, but the duration would be very, very low with just having +3 Molten. So my options here aren't that great overall, and I'm just picking it because I had to pick something for this slot. And I think Cunning is a pretty good option since it can proc no matter what. No other things have to happen aside from just doing damage. Like you do damage, you have a chance to do I think 150% extra damage, since it's only +3 Cunning, so that in itself isn't a bad thing. And as I stated earlier, this build and this weapon are pretty much the best in slot at the moment. I think Frugal said that whenever he first showed me this build, but this was before the changes to Riftstalker weapons and the changes to Cunning. But I still think it holds up. I still think it's the top dog right now because of how it all works. And this build can be used on pretty much every single behemoth. Now, if you want to fight, you say like a Fire Behemoth or Frost Behemoth, that's completely fine, but I would think that the Hellion Hammer is better versus Frost Behemoths. Now, don't ever fight Umbral Behemoths with Riftstalker weapons because Umbral versus Umbral, you're doing less damage than you want to because of how that interaction works. You're bringing a weapon to a fight, and that weapon is weak against the same element. So, in that case, you can use it on every single other Behemoth and you'll be fine. There are some fights that it can be kind of hard to run Predator, but that is kind of the risk you run in this kind of situation. Now, this is a really insane weapon if you can just do the combos right, which to give you guys like a pseudo guide to the hammer real quick, if you want to play it and do a ton of damage, your goal is to 8th the slam as much as possible. And to do the fastest combo to 8th the slam, it's going to be the rising uppercut attack, which is going to be a light attack followed by the forward key, like press the key in the direction you're facing, and follow that with 2 more light attacks, and then do a heavy attack. And the heavy attack will be 8th the slam, and that is the fastest combo to 8th the slam no matter what. Now, real quick tip as well, I'm pretty sure you still cannot roll into this kind of combo. When you roll attack, I still think it's going to be just a spin to win move, which takes a long time to actually execute, and it's not the play because you want to be doing 8th the slams as quickly as possible. So if you roll an attack, sometimes I suggest just waiting until like the roll is canceled and you don't go into a roll attack, and instead you roll and then you wait and then you go into an rising uppercut combo, and that will lead to a really fast 8th slam. And 8th slams are important because first off, the damage is really high, and the other thing is that when you 8th slam, you get Aether Charge shells. Now these shells give you more damage whenever you do a primed attack and whenever you do an 8th slam, because 8th slams expend all your shells. That is why 8th slams are really nice, and doing an 8th slam refills all these shells pretty much instantly, so it's just you 8th slam to win the game basically. Now, to anyone that doesn't understand how the hammer works, if you are new, you might think that it's good to prime all your hits, but that is not the case. You want to try and save as many Aether Charge shells or shells in general for your Aether Slam. Now, priming is a really good tool if a behemoth is either really bubbly in the face, or if a part looks really weak. If you prime your hit, if you're playing solo, it'll pretty much guarantee to break it or guarantee to stagger it, because that is a ton of damage in that moment, because priming hits makes you do more damage and more stagger damage. So that can be a really useful tool if you know you're close to a stagger or to a part break. But in general, do not freaking prime every single hit. And sticking to a similar topic, when it comes to inline reloads, I would suggest not doing this all the time. If a behemoth is staggered and you're running over power and you have a moment to do an inline reload, I think it's okay in that situation, but do not do an inline reload after every single time you prime a hit, just because it slows on your DPS and it just ruins the whole flow of the hammer, because again, the whole point is to do as many Aether slams as you possibly can. And also, if you're doing Aether slam, the whole point of using this is to make it so you hit the behemoth with as many slams as possible. If you're using the regular mag, which is going to be 4 shells, it's not a big deal where you're positioned for the most part. If you're using the extended clip mag, this matters a lot, because on most behemoths, if you're like hitting it from the side and looking at a weird angle, you're going to miss a lot of shells. The goal here is to be at the head, hitting through the tail. It's the same way you want to play the full bore chamber. You want to make sure that as many shells connect as possible. And the nice part is that the hammer can now sever tails. Sever tails and cut horns. This is pretty bonkers because Aether Slam, you can hit the head and it can pretty much cut the tail as well, which is a pretty wild thing. It's like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and hit the head, and at the same time, I'm doing a ton of damage to the tail of the behemoth the whole time. This can be really seen as a very useful part on Rezakiri, where you're hitting the head, you're hitting the tail, and you're hitting the tail gem when you're using the extended clip. So this is a very nice combo to have and a very good utility of the hammer now. I think it's a bit busted, but my thoughts on it are still in the air. Like, I'm not really sure how I feel about hammer being able to sever tails and cut horns. Cutting horns is fine actually. Like, cutting horns makes sense because the hammer is blunt. I feel like you'd break horns with a hammer easily in real life, but then again, it's a video game, so using those kind of examples are kind of like weird. But still, I think it's a nice thing to do, but it does make the hammer even more powerful in the current state, where parts have like a decent amount of health on like most behemoths, but in some cases you can just break parts and just chain stagger it for free. And giving more parts to the hammer to break means chain staggering will be even easier to do in more cases. So that's the build, guys, and let me know what you think about it. If it's really OP, if you like it, if you try it. But this is the build I've been asking for, and here it is. And I did like it in a lot of fights. It netted me some really fast kill times. I got like a 205 on Reza, which I'm pretty proud of. No potions, no nothing. This video does not include any potions whatsoever, by the way. So that could mean that, oh hey, Doe did this without potions. So even if I don't think I can do it, which you guys probably can, it just takes practice. But even if you think you can't do it, with potions, you probably can, because potions are very potent and very powerful. But anyway, guys, that is the end of this video. If you liked it, leave a like. If you want to, comment on the video, because both those things help the channel immensely. And if you like the content, be sure to subscribe to this channel for more content. And I do have a Twitch stream. It's just OhDough. It's my name on Twitch. So twitch.tv/OhDough. That's me. I'm a pretty inactive streamer, and I do play with viewers. And on Saturdays, we have Sub Saturday. That's whenever, if you're a sub, you go to a queue system. It's a much better way to play with me, just because I normally don't run a queue system because it's kind of hard to do. And lastly, I do have an Epic Games support code. It is just OhDough as well. So if you're on the Epic Games store, use that code, or if you're in Dauntless, use that code. And all these things I just listed are insane ways to help me out, especially just watching the videos, y'all. Like, I keep saying it every single video, but thank you. Anyway, have a great day, y'all. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.